Number 21, Chris Paul.
So Chris Paul, as we sit here as of recording, has 4 first-team All-NBAs, 5 second-team All-NBAs, and 1 third-team All-NBA. He almost assuredly is going to add to that this season, but the All-NBA teams have not yet been announced. He has finished second place in MVP voting in 08 when he was a pup. 5 times he's finished in the top 5. 7 times he's finished in the top 6. And 10 times Chris Paul has finished in the top 10 in MVP voting. He's a 5-time assist champ, including winning an assist title at age 22 and winning an assist title at age 36. 14 years removed were his assist titles. He's won the Steals Championship 6 times, 9 times all defense. He also won Rookie of the Year, if you're interested in that. He's 3rd all-time in career assists and 6th all-time in career steals. The regular season resume is one of better than the 21st best player of all time. Let's be honest here. The regular season resume would say it's probably the 2nd greatest point guard ever. The regular season resume would be Magic 1, Chris Paul 2, depending on what you want to do with Oscar Robertson. But spoiler alert, I have 3 point guards plus Oscar. Oscar's too old for the list, ahead of Chris Paul. Because Magic's ahead of him, Steph's ahead of him, Isaiah's ahead of him. So why? It's because the postseason resume, and this was true before this season ended in the most inglorious fashion imaginable, is spotty. Now, spotty doesn't mean all bad. A guy like Harden's postseason resume is almost entirely bad. Chris's postseason resume is not entirely bad, so let's go through the plus and the minus of it, okay? He is 5th all-time in playoff assists. His first career playoff game, he was 35-10, followed by a 32-17, followed by a 24-11-15 to close out a series in 2008, the year he almost won MVP. That year in 08, he took the defending champion Spurs to 7 games in round 2. But that was another series where they had control of it and then lost the final couple games. That ain't great. And however, you look at it, you're like, okay, but his 2nd and 3rd best players were David West and Peja Stojakovic. He averaged 24-7 for the series. He was 22 years old, and it looked like only great things were ahead for Chris in the postseason. It's not quite how it worked out. And in fact, you don't have another super noteworthy postseason event until 2014. So we go from 08 to 14 without any super great postseason moment for Chris. 2014 postseason, 22-14, 22 points, 14 assists in a Game 7 against the Warriors. It's actually, as of recording, which is we're recording right before the Western Conference Finals get going, it's the last team to beat the Warriors in the playoffs aside from in the finals. So he did that in Game 7 against the Warriors in 2014. He averaged 23-12 in round 2 against Oklahoma City, but they lose. They down 2-1 to the defending champ Spurs the next year. He has 25-10, including a Game 7 buzzer beater. It's like, okay. So he had the great playoff moment in 08, then a long gap without it. Then 2014, he beats the young upstart Warriors. He loses a brutal series to OKC, but come on, it's OKC, and they have Durant, they have Russ still at the time. You're not going to kill him for it. The very next year, he's in a Game 7. He hits the buzzer beater. If you remember it, he kind of got bumped, banked it off the glass to win a Game 7. But then his, at the time, single worst playoff moment immediately followed. They're up 3-1 against the Rockets. They lose all 3 games, and it's awful. It's just truly, truly awful. And the previous year, when I said the 2014 season, we're not going to kill him for it, we're not going to kill him for it, but he had those back-to-back terrible turnovers. So 2014, he has the terrible turnovers in the final 15 seconds against Russ, and they lose a critical game to OKC. They lose the series. But it's like, were the Clippers really the better team, or was that KD and Russ? Okay, the next year, they are better than the Rockets. They're up 3-1, and they blow it. In his defense, the most notorious game of that series was the Game 6 meltdown. He did have 31-11, but he's still attached to the loss. 2018 is supposed to be his moment. He has 41-7-10 to eliminate the Jazz, to advance for the first time in his career, forget the finals, the Western Conference Finals. and they are beating an all-time great Warriors team. And then he hurts his hamstring in game 5, and the team collapses without him. It's like, okay, is he ever going to have another chance as good as this? In 2020, he's on a Thunder team that's supposed to be rebuilding. They lose in round 1 to Houston by 2 in game 7. He did have 19, 11, and 12. Houston wins. Okay, that's not really on him. I'm sorry, that was 2020. If I didn't say that right, that was the bubble year. But then last year, the Chris Paul resurgence, if you will. He's on Phoenix, this Phoenix team that had never sniffed the playoffs before he gets there. He goes there. He averages 21 and 10 to sweep Nikola Jokic out of the playoffs in round 2 to get to his second career Western Conference Finals. And he had 37 and 7 to clinch that series. Then in the conference finals, he averages 24 and 9 against the Clippers and to clinch that series to get to his first career finals. 41 and 8, one of the single greatest playoff games of his life to get to the finals. In his first career finals game, he's 32 and 9. But the Suns are up 2-0, and then they lose 4 straight. And then this year, what did we see? First game of the playoffs, 30 and 10 against the Pelicans. To eliminate the Pelicans, 33 and 8, going an NBA all-time playoff record, 14 of 14 from the field. Gets to the Mavs series. Unbelievable game 1, unbelievable game 2, and then just a total no-show. Awful, the final 5 games. So what do? Chris Paul's regular season resume far outshines Isaiah Thomas, is neck and neck, if not, as far as true point guard play, better than Steph Curry. And he does have some great postseason moments, but repeatedly, in the biggest spots, the point guard does not play his biggest ball. So it's hard for me to have him higher than right outside the top 20. And if I'm being honest, I think this is going to end up being his last best shot. Last year, up 2-0 in the finals. This year, a 64-win team, up 2-0 on a Mavs team no one except for me picked to go anywhere. They only have one All-Star in Luka. And it wasn't just on him, but he was not good the final 5 games of that series. So I don't want to spend this time knocking him. He's the 21st greatest player ever. But why is he not higher? That's why he's not higher. We've got a couple callers that want to chime in on Chris Paul. Let's hear from him.
What up, Nick? Look at this new audience. Got to make sure I'm crispy up here. Top 50 of the last 50, huh? Now, CP3 is my homie, but he was my 3rd favorite Clipper. I was a Blake guy, and then DeAndre just was flying through the sky and Lob City hits. And you know who Chris Paul was? He was the adult in the room. Chris Paul's the one that leveled everything out. Yeah, we didn't realize our full potential, but without Chris Paul, I don't think we even sniffed that. So I got respect for CP3, who's still out here cooking, looking better than ever. That's what happens when you become a vegan. Hey, man, have me on the podcast for real instead of these little clips. We'll chop it up 2 chains. All right, boy.
Hey, Nick, how you doing? Melissa Rohlin here, national NBA reporter for Fox Sports. Great list, by the way, but I have a question for you. Chris Paul, I think we can agree he's an incredible passer, an incredible playmaker, an incredible defender. Heck, I'd even say he's one of the top 5 NBA point guards of all time. So my question for you is the reason why he's not higher on your list because he never won a championship? If he had won a title, would you have given him a little bit of a higher nod?
Absolutely. Listen, to answer her question, absolutely unequivocally yes. And in fact, the guy who you're about to hear is number 20, who's going to be my far and away most controversial inclusion. He would be higher than him. He also, I don't want to give the list away, but I haven't mentioned Charles Barkley. I haven't mentioned Karl Malone. Those are best players without a ring. Chris Paul would be ahead of them. But instead, those are players also without a ring who won a league MVP. He did not. If he had won a title last year or this year, he would have at least had an argument of him versus Isaiah Thomas. But he didn't, so he doesn't. And to Marcellus's point, those Clippers teams didn't lose a lot of series where they had clearly the best team. You lose to the Warriors, you lose to the Thunder, but they were in position where they could have won those series. And Chris, this is why it's hard for little guys to dominate the NBA playoffs. He got dinged at the wrong time. He turned the ball over at the wrong time. He's an all-time great player. And analytics say he is the 2nd greatest point guard ever. But he needed to have one start-to-finish Hey, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button to get more from the show, and make sure to click the bell to get notified every time new content drops. Check out full episodes of What's Right wherever you get your podcasts, or just click the link in the description below.